Okay, so just to pick up where we left off, we were left with the idea last week that any type of holy action, of mitzvah, leaves an imprint. Might not leave an imprint forever, but it still leaves an imprint for a little bit. The most extreme example, I think we mentioned last week, is we see in the story of Purim. Because in the story of Purim that we read not too long ago, we see that Esther had a feast where she invited just the king, Achashverosh, and his evil advisor Haman, who wanted to execute the final solution. And then it says that Haman came out. Remember that? He came out of that feast, Sameach v'tuv lev, happy and good-hearted.
Mm-hmm.
Now, how can you say that he was good-hearted? It's like the Adolf Hitler of the day, being good-hearted. And the answer is because she was with Esther just a few moments before that, enjoying this feast. And being in the presence of Esther transformed his heart for a little bit. Didn't stay, certainly didn't stay, but for a little bit he became good-hearted. And that's really the power of the mitzvah, of any mitzvah, and the impression that it can leave. You know, I've received this question before. Why do you invite all these people for Shabbat dinner? Well, anyway, it's not going to change them. And I think the answer is in exactly what we said. You never know the power of one Shabbat dinner can change a heart of a person and leave an impression that will carry a ripple effect. And that's the idea here that we're speaking about, that the Benoni might not be a tzaddik, might never become a tzaddik, where he's not only in full control of his animal, but he doesn't have an animal soul. That's what a tzaddik is, or his animal soul is completely dormant. But still, as he struggles, he should take joy in these impressions that the mitzvahs that he constantly does leave. And it's true for the Beinah, it's true for any one of us who engages in any type of mitzvah. It leaves an impression. The Jerusalem Talmud says that one should always engage in a mitzvah because just quoting word for word, which means the light in the mitzvah will bring the person back to the ultimate level of goodness. And what does that mean? The light in the mitzvah illuminates you. You might not feel it, you might not see it, but it illuminates your innermost. And that in of itself can begin this journey towards that ultimate goodness. Anyway, that's the idea. That's true for prayer, it's true for study, it's true for mitzvahs. Okay. So we're now in the middle of 302. Margot.
Yes.
Where exactly again?
And the innate awe and love of God in the right ventricle.
Okay, right in the middle. Does anyone want to read?
I'll read.
Please, go for it, Margot. Yeah.
In addition to the impression remaining in the soul of the Benoni from the experience of prayer, a latent sense of awe and love of God, inherent to the essence of his soul, exists within every person at all times. The combination of the impression left by the experience of love and awe in prayer and the latent potential for love and awe in every soul. Achieve this, they enable him to overpower and control this evil craving and not to allow it to gain supremacy and dominion over the city. Right.
Just stop there for a second. So the question is why? Why do mitzvahs? Why does the experience of prayer, as he puts it here, or the experience of Torah study, or the experience of a mitzvah, why do they leave an impression? And the answer, you know what? Let's take this question a little bit further, because it's a question that the Tanya asks in a different section, in the second section of Sha'arei Yichud V'Emunah. But the question there is, God commands us to love him, right? We say that in the Shema each and every day. That we should love God with all our heart, with all our soul, and with all our might. Now, how can you command someone to love when sometimes I just don't love? I can't love. You can't force me to love something when I don't love something. If I don't love apples, you can't tell me you got to love an apple. If I don't love this type of quality in a person, you can't force me to love a certain quality in a person. You can't. So how can you force me to love God? If I don't love God, I don't love God. And the answer that Tanya gives is no, you don't understand. You're not loving something that's outside of you. You're loving something that's inside of you. And because it's inside of you, you already love it. That love might not be revealed. And therefore, exercise and work on yourself so that this love is eventually revealed, because you'll find out that you have loved God all this time without knowing it. That's the answer. That's the very powerful answer of the Tanya. But same year, why does a mitzvah leave an impression? Because a mitzvah is a part of us. It's what the soul wants. It's not something from the outside that I went to a concert and now I feel good, but then a day later I forgot about it. Or I won the lottery and I was ecstatic, and then I lose it all because I don't know how to handle it, or the joy and the ecstasy is gone. It's not that type. A mitzvah comes from a wholly different type. It's a part of me. It's what my soul truly desires. My soul knows also. It's the only language my soul speaks. So when I do a mitzvah, it ignites the soul more than anything, ignites the soul, because again, it speaks its language, and the soul then is set ablaze. And this is what this is saying here, that when I experience prayer, or again, any mitzvah, yeah, we're speaking specifically about prayer, the latent sense of awe and love of God inherent to the essence of his soul is then set ablaze. Then it's like telling the soul, oh, I'm giving you your own nourishment, the nourishment that you always wanted. That's why you can never underestimate the power of just one mitzvah. You never know what one mitzvah can really do to a person or can do to you, because the soul responds no matter what. When you feed something, even when you feed an animal, it responds. Oh, wow, thank you. Yeah, you're feeding the soul, something that's divine. So it's got to respond. And that's really the reason why a mitzvah can leave an impression like nothing else. Because you're feeding something that is you, that is a part of you. It's what the soul always wanted. You may have not known. I mean, and please, again, this should be a dialogue much more than a monologue, so feel free to speak your minds and disagree and ask questions and so on. But I can tell you that on a personal note, my greatest joy being a rabbi is noticing what one mitzvah can do to a person. And I see it whether I put tefillin on someone or whether I fix mezuzahs on people's doors. I can see the beginning of a complete transformation. Actually, I don't like the word transformation because it means you're becoming something else. It's actually the opposite. You're becoming your true self. So the beginning of you becoming your true self, owning that soul. And whether it's, and we never know which mitzvah. The chief rabbi of Israel of some 30 years ago, Rabbi Avram Shapiro, would say something as interesting, because in the first murder of the Torah, of history actually, altogether, we learned that Cain killed his brother Hevel. Remember that? The sons of Adam and Eve. Cain killed Hevel. Now, how did he kill him? So Rashi says that he stabbed him in many different places. That's why when God came to reproach Cain, he said, Kol dmei achicha zoakim elecha min ha'adama. The bloods, in plural, the bloods of your brother are shouting at you from the ground. Why bloods in the plural? Because he stabbed him many times. Just wasn't just one shot. There were many bloods. Now, why did he stab him many times? Because he didn't know where the soul came out from. This was, remember, the first murder. He wanted to kill him. So he said, maybe the soul comes out from here, and he stabbed him in all sorts of places. So Rabbi Avram Shapiro, the chief rabbi of Israel 30 years ago, says that just as we don't know where the soul comes out from, we also don't know where the soul comes in from. For some people, it's this mitzvah. For some people, it's that mitzvah. For some people, it's, again, tefillin, mikveh, Shabbat candle lighting, mezuzahs, or Israel. But, and therefore we have to try every mitzvah. But there's certainly a mitzvah that can trigger a complete unleashment of the soul. And that's why we can never give up on any person or on any mitzvah. But this is, again, the connection between the impression of a mitzvah and the soul, because it's really giving back to the person what has always belonged to him. It's not something from the outside, it's something from the inside. If I'm going on a tangent, please stop me. But one of the powerful stories from the Midrash that Rabbi Steindals would often say was a story of Yanai, a man some 2,000 years ago, who was walking in the street and he saw Adam Meshupa Me'od, as it says in the Midrash, someone that was very distinguished looking. So he said, I got to invite this guy to my house. He looks so distinguished. And he invites him to his house. And he says to him, look, I see that you look very distinguished. Can you share with me some thoughts from the Talmud? He says, I don't know any Talmud. Because maybe from the Torah. He says, I don't know any Torah. From the Halacha, I don't know any Halacha. And soon enough, the man finds out that as distinguished as this guy looks, he knows nothing. He's completely ignorant. So he becomes very, very mean with him. And he says to him, okay, then at least can you say the grace after the meals? He said, I don't know how to say it. So he says, okay, repeat after me. And he says to him the words in Aramaic. He says to him, repeat that a dog just ate from the meal of Yanai. So man is understanding what he has to repeat. He says, what, are you calling me a dog? Tells Yanai. He says, yeah, you don't know anything. You're complete ignorant. You're just as good as a dog. The man says, well, there's one verse I do know. And that is that it says that Torah tziva lanu Moshe morasha kilat Yaakov. The Torah is the inheritance to the entire congregation of Jacob. It's my inheritance just as it is yours. So the fact that I don't know it means that you don't have to teach it to me. You have to give me my inheritance. Instead of calling me a dog, give me what I deserve, my inheritance. And the man understood, Yanai understood how wrong he was, and he asked for forgiveness, etc. But the point is very strong, very powerful. It's our inheritance. It's a part of us. And not only just a part of us because it's our inheritance. When Jordan will tell you, as there'll be GYN here in the Zoom, Jordan will tell you that fetuses study the entire Torah during the 9 months of their mother's pregnancy. And it becomes a part of them, becomes a part of the DNA. When they are born, the angel slaps the baby born on the face, and he forgets it all. But it's a part of you. So your inheritance, and also from that mystical standpoint, it's very much a part of you. So when you study Torah, and when you experience prayer, and when you do a mitzvah, you're really igniting something that was always there.
Sometimes, Rabbi, you see the fetus kind of going like this on the ultrasound, and you know what's happening there.
That's wonderful. That's great. I wonder which part of Torah that is. Okay, good. All right, let's continue. Unless, again, please, you can speak up your minds. But this is speaking about, again, the impression of a mitzvah. Okay, let's continue. Bottom of 302.
Okay. The Benoni's power is such that even without an actual experience of love and awe of God, which the tzaddik experience constantly, he can draw the strength from the impression left by prayer and from his latent love of God to completely control every aspect of his life, never allowing his animal soul to carry out its desire from the potential into actuality by clothing itself in the organs and limbs of the body.
Right. So when that soul is set ablaze with the impression of the prayer, again, of the mitzvah Torah study here, we're speaking about prayer, then it really enables the person to be in full control of the animal soul. Why? Because we mistakenly sometimes can feel like we are what our animal soul is. After all, I have all these doubts and these challenges and these fears and insecurities that I say to myself, this is who I am. Like many teenagers, for example, say to themselves, because they don't really know who they are yet. But here, when we experience the power of prayer, of a mitzvah, then something else resonates deep within us. And we start saying to ourselves, oh, maybe this is what we are. We're that divine. After all, it also feels that way, in most cases. You know, it's fascinating. When people give tzedakah, it feels, I'm sure everyone would agree here. When you give tzedakah, it resonates deeply. It feels good, people say. Why? It should feel bad. You just gave away. You have now less money in your bank account. And that's because, again, you're discovering a part of you that is divine, that is the real you. And then you say to yourself, oh, okay, that's really who I want to be. Someone just sent me a video of this amazing, amazing Jew. I don't know if you've seen it, by the name of Alon Mesika, whose son was murdered on October 7th. And he cries throughout the video. See that he's truly in pain. But it's amazing how he transformed his tears into triumph. Because a few weeks after his son was murdered, he sees a video of soldiers all gathered at a wedding of their peer. Another soldier was just getting married. I don't know, did you see that? Mm. And he decided that just impromptu, that he's a jeweler, and he posted that, which it moved him so much, that scene of this soldier getting married among only soldiers who were invited to that wedding. He said, look, if there's a soldier that's about to propose and doesn't have the means and needs a ring, then I'll make that ring. Just contact me now and I'll give you that ring for free. And immediately, within 6 minutes, he says, someone called him. So he kept his promise and he made that ring. And then a few moments later, another soldier calls him and says, is that ring still available? He said, I'm sorry, I gave it away. He says, oh, what am I going to do now? He says, you know what? I'll make you a ring too. And to date, maybe to the date of the video, maybe not even more, he said he has made 81 rings. Wow. For soldiers who are about to propose. And they asked him, is there a point where you're going to say, okay, it's enough, I'm going to stop? He says, no, I'll never stop. Because these evil terrorists try to destroy the home that my son was going to build. So the best response is for me to rebuild Jewish homes. And through that unfathomable tragedy, he found his vocation. And I think it's very powerful here, because when we speak about animal soul or any destructive forces of the world, or even evil forces of the world, the best response is to try and find our true selves in all of this. The self that is divine. And when we do, then evil, those terrible forces are overcome. Because then we say, okay, this is who we are. I'm a builder of homes. And I'll never stop. And that in many ways is what the Tanya is saying here. When we experience prayer, truly experience, right? Profoundly experience prayer or Torah study or mitzvah, we find our real vocation. We find our true I. And that enables us to be in full control of the animal soul, almost naturally. And the animal soul is not us anymore. Goodbye. I found my true self. I don't need you anymore. That's what it's saying. The animal soul here from within, but also the animal soul from without, like Alon Mesika showing the world. You can look up his name. You'll see it's just a wondrous story. Okay, please continue, but please, I mean, I haven't heard anybody today. except for Jordan. But you can continue to speak to Jordan. Maybe tell us something else
No,
about it.
I heard, yeah, this is, I think, one of the most beautiful stories, since October 7th, the one that you just mentioned. And I also heard it said that these rings that this jeweler has made, and 81 to date, were diamond engagement rings.
Mm-hmm.
And I've heard it kind of tied in with a story that you've shared with us on a couple of occasions, where the Rebbe would be standing for hours and hours and hours to meet and greet fellow Jews, and people would say, you haven't had anything to drink or nothing to eat for hours and hours. And he goes, who can think of food and water when you're looking at diamonds for all these hours, or something similar to that.
Very good.
And I've heard this tied in with that we are each, in our own way, that special gem as Jews, and he was creating these rings and just furthering, like you say, the families and the children to come from those unions. So special.
Right. That's so special. Yeah. No, thank you. That's true. There's great correlation between the Rebbe's line, the Rebbe's perspective, and that. Alon Masika is also only seeing diamonds, building diamonds, but seeing diamonds in others, joining his diamonds with others. His material diamonds with human diamonds. Yeah. Very good. Okay, one more paragraph here at the bottom of 302. At least let's finish the page.
Okay. Moreover, even in the mind alone, insofar as evil thoughts are concerned, the evil gains no supremacy and dominion to compel the mind's volition to entertain willingly. God forbid, any wicked thought rising of its own accord from the heart of the brain, as discussed above, to the brain, as discussed above.
Right. So when you're in this state of divinity, where you discovered your true self, then no foreign thought can permeate. It's almost like, and when you're deeply in love, when you're madly in love, there's no foreign thoughts can permeate and destroy this love. Same here, when I'm madly in love with God and I've discovered the true self and it resonates so profoundly, then the animal soul can try all it wants, but it's not going to succeed, because now I'm whole. I'm whole with myself. I'm whole with my God. And in something that's wholesome, nothing can permeate.